Pop Culture Pastor.
Cody, I have a special treat for you. I have a gift
Thank you.
for you. I just need a tape recorder.
Oh, so this isn't like a Stetson.
No. It's not a real gift.
Oh.
But I need a tape recorder because fall is here. Hear the yell. Back to school. Ring the bell. Brand new shoes. Walking blues. Climb the fence. Books and pens. I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
That is one thing I like about this show.
What, their love of the white stripes?
Yes.
Raylan or Clement's love of the white stripes?
Which it works since they're in Detroit. So
Yeah.
And can we get Jack White on the show? Because he was going to be, this is true, I'm not making this one up, he was going to be a clergyman himself.
Really?
He was going to go into the priesthood.
I wonder if we could. Maybe we'll have to put out a feeler to his peoples.
I don't know who represents you, Jack, but you're on my radar. See if you watch Justified and or how you feel about them using your music.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It'd be interesting to know how many people know that's a White Stripe song, or they know it from their kids being fans of the Curious George movie, because Jack Johnson covered that song for the Curious George soundtrack. You know, the cartoon, the movie.
Did not know that there was a Jack Johnson version.
Yes, and it's amazing because Jack Johnson's amazing. Really.
Now I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, you should. It's fantastic. So yeah, before we even get into the episode, Justified it's just a cool show. Like the vibes on it are cool. The music's they make good music choices that kind of intertwine with the characters. I dig it. You can tell they wanted to like transfer like the Elmore Leonard-ness of the story into this. I do wonder from time to time what this would have looked like if Quentin Tarantino would have stuck. Because you know this was going to be a Quentin Tarantino directed thing at first.
Oh. Clement might be more of a loose cannon than he already is.
Yeah, I think so. And I wonder how much, because he was the one who started developing this first. And I wonder, like the scene we talked about at length in the first episode, I wonder how much of that was holdover, or how much Quentin Tarantino had influence-wise on the pilot episode specifically. That I'd be interested to know that. But this show is really, I really dig the tone, and it just seems cool, which most Elmore Leonard stuff does.
Rumor has it there is talks of another season or spin-off of Justified, where different adventure for Raylan. So,
oh, well, that's good. I mean, do we want that? I think we'd want that.
Oh yeah, and especially I guess if you're a fan of reading, Raylan just goes like all over the United States. He isn't just strictly out of Kentucky
In the books.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say this show hasn't soured me at all on the story of Raylan Givens and Justified so far. I'll admit that the first two episodes felt kind of slow to me, but it wasn't like it lost me. Like, I understand you have to build the story.
Yeah, and I mean, we're so far removed from Justified season 1, episode 1.
Right.
Like, it's hard to even compare it. And at that point, Raylan's not even in Kentucky. He just gets assigned to Kentucky. And then, like, you have this magnificent story get broadened out over 6 seasons.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's different, but I like it. And I'm here for more Raylan Givens stories for sure. As long as Timothy Olyphant is willing, I'm here. I'm here for it.
Anything that is Western-esque in Timothy Olyphant, sign me up. So,
oh man. Okay. Should we just get into the episode? Oh, by the way, you're listening to Pop Culture Pastor.
Watch-alongs.
My name's Dave. Cody's here, and watch-alongs is just is this part of the pod where we just watch a show together. And as the episodes drop, we drop a pod episode and talk about it.
It's Justified.
Could be 25 minutes, could be 45 minutes, could be an hour.
Could be 5 minutes.
Could be, I suppose, if we didn't have much to say. Luckily,
Episode's good.
Yeah. Well, no, it'd probably be the episode was bad. Although then we'd have a lot to say, wouldn't we?
It was good.
Yeah. 5-minute episode would be the worst, though.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about episode 3 of Justified City Primeval. We find in the opening scene, Lawyer Carolyn.
Yeah.
Lawyer Carolyn is sad.
Which is heartbreaking.
She's clearly been hosed by her ex. Like she's sitting in an empty mansion and with an empty pool. Everything's dark. Like, do we get the feeling that she doesn't have power?
Maybe.
She's holding a tax lien from the federal government for $106,000.
I don't even know what that fully means.
Well, she's clearly down on her luck, and it's clearly she's been put in this position. It's been thrust on her. She's a Job, if you will, where everything's happening to her. She didn't ask for this. She didn't cause it.
And literally, she just keeps trying to help people.
Yeah, she continues for me to be the most interesting character because I honestly don't know where her story arc is going, and her story is the one I'm interested in the most. But she's sitting in this empty mansion by this empty pool. It's all dark, and Clement shows up, and of course, because of the episode, the events of the last episode, he's all beat up. And his purpose from being there is to show Carolyn that he's been beat up by Raylan and wants her to do something about it. And what I really liked about this scene, Cody, is that she shows toughness and grit. Like, she's not a pushover. And I don't know, maybe she should be. You get the feeling she knows who Clement is.
Oh, yeah.
And then that he's a ticking time bomb. But she stands her ground and makes him back off. And pretty much tells her, get off my lawn.
So what I would take away from this is she knows that people are a lot like animals. That if you're calm, they'll calm down. But if you're nervous, frantic, energetic, they're going to feed off of it.
Yeah.
And Clement would be one of those that would like just pounce and take full advantage of it. So you have to be tough in that situation to get Clement to back off.
Yeah. The actress, Ingenue, I can't remember her last name.
Ellis.
Ingenue Ellis. She's amazing in this scene. And what I loved about it was even when Clement, I mean, he's open and tells her exactly what he's done. Like, honestly, when he says, I just went to talk to his daughter, like that's all the red flags, all the red bells and whistles. And she keeps her cool and basically tells him, knock that stuff off. If you're going to be around the marshal, he's going to beat you up. Like, he should have beat you up.
Because it was justified.
It was justified. It's not just a clever name. And so we get this scene right off the bat that shows us the toughness of Carolyn, the loose cannon-ish of Clement. Anything else I'm missing?
So the thing that stood out to me was everyone and their moms pretending.
Pretending how? Elaborate.
Oh, now we're going to have to go character by character.
No. Just do Clement and Carolyn. Tell me what they're pretending. Carolyn's pretending to be
that she has it all together right now, when
she does.
everything's falling apart around her. And then Clement, I mean, he's pretending that he is his girlfriend's brother, and she is pretending that she actually did what Clement asked her to do, and we'll get into all that. But there's a lot of pretending going around, including with other characters in this current episode. So.
Clement in this opening scene, though, might be the only one who's not pretending and the one who's most open, because he's letting it all out there of what he is, who he is. And at the end of that conversation, when she kind of says, what are you going to do? She says, he says, I do what I want. And that's sort of the precursor for what's about to happen.
Yeah.
He did that with the judge. Do we think there's anything behind the judge that we don't know yet? Or do we think that was just a random killing?
I think that the judge just irritated him and prevented him from actually getting to where he wanted to go, which was following the car that the girlfriend was in. And then since the judge was being a jerk face, you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah. So that was my understanding of it too. But then there was a little conversation with Raylan and the female cop that Raylan was having. They're clearly having trouble with the motivation behind the judge killing.
Oh, yeah.
To which you would if it was random, if he was just a bomb that went off. And so because they can't fathom that because the judge was crooked, important, and so they think he must have a motive. And it's scarier that he doesn't, in my opinion. So if he ends up having a motive, I'll be bummed out.
I think that he will get some gains because of like the journal he has.
Mm-hmm.
But
He's clearly going to use that at some point.
I don't think that there was any real motivation besides, well, you just messed me up, so let's have at it.
Yeah. Let's move on to Raylan and Willa.
Yeah.
Willa continues to be the most poorly written character. I feel so bad for her.
Okay, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
What an odd concept. If you don't listen to Pop Culture Pastor, if we have new listeners because you're just listening because we're covering Justified, which you're liking, Cody is something of a contrarian to me.
At times.
And he just takes great pleasure in disagreeing with me.
So,
Nothing? You're not going to say anything? Defend yourself.
There's no need to defend when I am in the right on this one.
I love you, Cody.
Thank you. Right back at you.
You're supposed to say, I know.
I almost did. So, you have to go back to episode 1.
Okay.
And they're going to camp. And what does Willa say to her dad?
She broke someone's nose.
Besides that, you wouldn't last an hour without your phone. To which Raylan replies, your call? All you do is text. That's not the call she's referring to. He is in love with his job and the privilege and duties and the polling of the job. He's always waiting on the next call, always ready to be the hired gun to come in and bring law and order to a corrupt town. Mm-hmm. And Willa has had it with those shenanigans.
I'm willing to be on board with your description and that she's a good character because I do see that. That's what's playing out. That's the story. That's the motivation. I just wish they'd allow them to, both actors, to kind of feel that out a little bit more. Like I feel like that scene in the restaurant was rushed. I feel like Willa didn't get to, what's her real name? Vivian Olyphant, Timothy's real life daughter. I feel like she doesn't really get a chance to shine like she could in that scene by just coming out and saying it, or show her being more emotional. So she leaves when his back is turned to get on the plane. I would have liked to see more emotion from her.
There was emotion.
Not enough though. We should be seeing how much it's affecting her and how much she's hiding from him.
Well, you got to see the tears form in her eyes, and when the tear was going down her cheek and the tear was going down Tim's cheek, there might have been an imaginary tear going down my cheek. It was close to a real one.
Look, I'm here for the story. I dig their dynamic. I dig the story they're trying to tell. I just wonder if, because it's his daughter, maybe it seems like it was just kind of added into the story later, and they just don't do enough to develop her or let her. Maybe they just don't let her really shine. I really hated the last episode. I called it Kim Bauer-esque, which I felt like it was. Like, and they did the same thing with the character of Kim Bauer in 24, where she was just a foil. She was just a damsel in distress. So I hated that they used Willa in that way. But I was surprised at the events of this episode. I'm surprised. Like, is she done? Like, is that like,
there's no way she's done.
So I was surprised about that she gets on, or we think she's getting on the plane. We don't even know how Willa reacted to realizing the danger she was in the last episode. We never get to see that.
We saw it at the end of the episode.
But again, it's not much of anything. We get a shot of her face. We don't really get her working through that at all.
Because Raylan doesn't have time to help work through that.
All right. I'm just saying, I feel like they're not doing her any favors. And it seems like, we just wrote a part for Timothy's daughter. Don't get me wrong. I'm Team Olyphant. I'm excited. I think she could be a very good actress, but I'm just saying they're not doing
Olyphant in everything.
They're not doing her any favors. That's all I'm saying.
I think that it's building slowly for her character because, like, the first 3 episodes, you gotta set up the bad guy, and we've set up Clement finally. But I think when Raylan finally realizes that his love of his job and being needed for his job is costing a relationship with his daughter, even more so than just being a co-parent with her living most of the time at her mom's house, that it's hurting that relationship more. I think you're going to see her character start to actually process that, and there will be an emotional moment that will probably last several minutes, and then I might have real tears. Who knows?
I definitely dig the story. I mean, listen, most people can relate to daddy issues, and especially those kind where daddy's working, right? A lot of people have that common shared experience of, man, hey, dad had to bring home the bacon. And so dad was gone long hours and you didn't get to be around him as much as you were around your mom. And so a lot of people have that experience. So I'm here for that. I just find myself wanting more. I want more, but maybe we'll get more. Maybe you're right.
I usually am.
The next kind of process or the phase in the show was the investigation itself, the cops. The cop side, the investigation is not going well, right? They're not making much headway. Prompted by Clement's escapades with Raylan's daughter in the last episode, they go all in. They bring all of the suspects in. Everyone related to the suspects. They do the cop tropes, right?
They do.
They're doing all the tricks, all the tropes. Nobody's breaking. Right? They're telling them all the lies.
Telling us everything right now, Clement.
We've got the gun. She's selling you out. Like, they're doing all the tricks and nobody's breaking. And we get what is maybe the ultimate Clement scene so far, where he gets serious and he's like, I need a tape recorder. And the guy goes, first of all, it's the cop nobody likes.
Yeah, it is.
Which, by the way, there's a question I'm going to ask later in this episode of who's got the highest percentage of dying. And that cop, it's always that cop that dies, that buys it. He, the cocky one, the one who's a little immature, thinks he's super tough. He goes to get a tape recorder so Clement can get up and give his rendition of I Can See That We're Going to Be Friends, which is alternately creepy and just super engaging. I felt like I was a foot from the screen at that point. Like, oh, what's he doing?
I was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of like pointing at the screen and with the face. And I'm like, hey, he's doing it.
Yeah. And it was like, look, all this stuff is good. We get some good, I don't know what the girl cop's name is that takes Raylan and his daughter in after this incident. I can't remember her name, but we get some good scenes with kind of fleshing out her character.
Is her name Maureen?
Is that the actress's name or the character?
Character, and the actress's name's Marin.
That's it. Yeah. So Maureen, they take her into the home. We get some good kind of filling in the blanks on her character. She's obviously a full-time cop, but she's also a mom and a wife. We get some of that interaction. and what their home life is like.
Yeah, Maureen Downey.
Yeah, and we get some, like Raylan has questions for her when they have a moment to themselves, which are the obvious questions for Raylan, like, how do you do this? How do you do this work and still have a family and be a wife and be a mom? Because that's what Raylan can't put together.
No.
And so that was really, really engaging and interesting.
That's why him and Winona did not work out, or Natalie Z's character.
It also, in possible tragedies, puts her on the list of possible death.
I was going to say, she's my wild card.
Yeah, like one of my most enjoyable things, which this is sort of telling, is like, which of these characters are going to die? We got a flow chart, but we'll get to that. Carolyn and Raylan have some good scenes together. A good scene together. That is the lawyer Carolyn. Raylan and her have this conversation where Raylan's just trying to almost trying to feel her out as like, hey, you know who this guy is, right? You know who this guy is. And she, in a moment of like total transparency, basically just tells him, well, do your job.
Yeah.
You don't have the evidence right now. Go find the evidence. So, because she knows who Clement is, but she's in a, like, when we're talking about Carolyn, we're talking about whatever situation she's in, which we're slowly getting kind of fleshed out for us. She's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
She's stuck. So, that was a really cool conversation. And she's just like, she says something that's really kind of, there was a profound moment when she's like, hey, don't just be angry, go do your job. And then she says this, she says, I'd be angry too, but everybody doesn't get to be angry the way you do.
Oh, snap.
Which, like, look, this is maybe it's a racial thing, but I think she's speaking more of a woman-man thing.
I had both.
Yeah, it could be both. But she's basically saying, hey, like, I'm a female. I don't get to just be angry at my job and have it be respected.
Yeah, and I do enjoy this episode for her character because it does show that even with everything that's falling apart around her, she has ambition and wants to become a judge. And so, like, yeah, she doesn't get to be angry like Raylan in, like, oh, I'm going to be the ever-loving snot owl someone.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
That's frowned upon for judges.
And it's heartbreaking when she's sitting there outside the courtroom and she's filling out that application to be a judge. And she gets to that question, has the federal government, extended any tax liens on you?
Yes.
And
yes, they have.
And you realize, yeah, she's stuck. She has things are happening to her that are out of her control, and she's not at fault. Mm-hmm. And she's I personally think, for me, she's the most interesting character for me right now. I want more of Carolyn, and I assume we're going to get more of that as the story goes on. Let's talk about Skender. Skender, the Lamborghini driving Albanian. Is that a Lamborghini? I'm not a car guy.
I don't know.
Well, forgive me if it's not a Lamborghini. I'm sorry, but I'm not a car guy. I'm just guessing. Skender is the hot dog salesman.
There's a lot of money in the hot dog sales.
The money is in the hot dog stand. That's all I could think of, by the way, when we see him like owning and running a hot dog stand. Like, oh,
this is Bluth bananas all over again.
And it's made pretty clear through the conversations of other characters that, hey, he's tied into the Albanian mafia, which apparently is a big thing in Detroit.
Hey, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 100 times.
And Sandy warns Clement, hey, man, the Albanian mafia does some way over the top things on just the slightest of slights.
And it doesn't end until they bring in a third party from some other country to stop it.
Yeah. So, like, this is the fact that Clement is just going through with this little side operation with Skender, where Sandy used her job as a casino waitress to kind of get in his good graces. This poor dude's in love. This poor dude's going to propose to her. Clement comes in posing as Sandy's sister.
Brother.
Brother, my bad. Yeah, brother. And they get him drunk. By the way, I laughed out loud when he did the drink to the side of his head and threw it behind his back.
Yes.
I literally laughed out loud when he did that. And so they're dropping lots of hints about the Albanian mafia, how they react to slights. But Clement, living by what he told lawyer Carol at the beginning, I do what I want. He
wasn't lying.
I think Clement is really like a Joker-esque character. Like, he's not afraid of the mafia, clearly, because what happens here is they get him drunk. They go back to the penthouse. He's got this sweet penthouse. He's got a safe room and a safe, but no gold bars, just guns. And Clement does not take that well.
He was expecting at least a little cashola.
I mean,
minimum.
I know my safe in my safe room. That's where I keep all my gold bars. But Skender doesn't have any gold bars. And Clement, you feel that feeling where he's like, we just wasted all this time.
Oh yeah,
and he kills him. Right? Isn't that what happens? He shoots him. We don't see it.
We assume he is not amongst the living anymore.
Yeah, and we assume that we've just introduced the Albanian mafia into this story.
Which I've been waiting for some form of mafia, gang, family, or crew to be introduced, because literally that's half the people Raylan was against in Kentucky.
And honestly, that's where, if you're the Joker type character, that makes the story interesting. We get that in The Dark Knight. How is this loose cannon of a character who's just a ticking cluster bomb? How does that react to, like, say what you want about organized crime? It's organized.
It is.
So this is going to be an interesting dynamic. And I assume what we're going to see is a very Joker-like story of Clement doing some damage to the Albanian mafia.
I hope so.
Isn't that weird? Why are we like that? Why do we like to see bad people hurt bad people?
Because we're bad people.
Nobody's good. Why do you call me good? Only God's good.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
mean, now that you have laid this out, I am seeing this kind of as justified a Batman story.
Yeah, right? He's kind of like, Raylan's kind of like Batman. Clement's kind of like his Joker. Boyd was never the Joker.
No.
Boyd's smart. Boyd's not even the Riddler. Who would Boyd be? Like the Penguin?
Maybe, but
he has a relationship with Raylan.
Yes.
Like you pointed out before we started recording, Boyd Crowder is never the main bad guy of any season of Justified.
Like Boyd's dad was?
Yeah.
At one point, when Boyd started the Crowder Commandos, he was under investigation for a bit, but he was pure motive with that.
Can we have a cameo from the Crowder Commandos, please?
Oh, I miss the Crowder Commandos.
Yeah, me too. We should talk about, before we get to our end of episode stuff, we should talk about Sweetie.
Yeah.
Sweetie, unassuming bar owner, who's sometimes been mixed up in some questionable things. But for some reason, I don't know if it's just that actor, like you find yourself rooting for him a little bit, because he's, unlike the lawyer, he's totally earned the hot water he's put himself in.
Oh, yeah.
He's not on the good side of things. But for whatever reason, and maybe it is just that actor, you feel like, okay, man, I hope Sweetie makes it out of this.
So his character, I feel, although he is wrapped up in some past shady business, I think that he wants to see people within his community succeed. And so, like, him being friends / a client of Carolyn,
yeah,
like, he's rooting for her. He wants what's best for the community. Now, the way he goes about things may not always be legal or ethical, but I think he has better motives.
Yeah, and there's so that's the commonality between him and Carolyn, and he may not be a Job-like character like Carolyn, where it appears like she hasn't really done anything to deserve the predicament she finds herself in. They have common ground of like they both get out of it right now if it were up to them, but they're both stuck. They're both stuck in, and maybe that says something about maybe the show's trying to say something about the underbelly of Detroit and how you can get caught up and stuff like that and have trouble extricating yourself in that environment. And so that's an interesting story. Sweetie, though, has the murder weapon, which was interesting because we never really find out. Like you're kind of under the understanding the cops are lying about having it. You're like, they don't have it. They're just lying to him. But
they just ruined his bar.
Yeah. You don't find out for sure until we see Sweetie near the end of the episode walk into the lawyer's office, say, I have the murder weapon.
Well, it's a hypothetical.
Oh, yeah. He's saying I have it.
Because, again, everyone and their mom's pretending in this episode.
So I suggest we start a flow chart here at the end of every episode on who has the best odds of dying. And I'm going to put Sweetie right up at the top. I think Sweetie is not long for this world, and that makes me kind of sad.
I have Sandy at the top.
Surely that's a good bet. I don't think Sandy, like, look, your top three characters, in my opinion, that are in the crosshairs, Sweetie, Sandy, and the arrogant cop whose name I don't even know. The guy who just says, this is how we do things in Detroit. Yeah, that dude's going to die. If movies and TV have taught me anything, is that dude's going down.
And the M. Night twist would be if Maureen meets it.
That'll be heartbreaking.
Because especially after the conversation Raylan has with Willa, that I'm tired of not only having you potentially in harm's way, but putting this family in harm's way.
Ooh, yeah, that was foreshadowing, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. That'll be very, you remember in Lethal Weapon 2 when the bad guys kill all the cops? And it's like they try to kill Mel Gibson, but they don't succeed.
You can't kill Mel.
But they kill all the regular cops. And boy, there's a sense of foreboding when it comes to Maureen and her family. Grr, don't you do that to us. Yeah. So I think Sweetie's got the highest odds right now, but I'm not going to argue with Maureen or
Sandy.
Sandy. Yeah.
Sandy's at the top of my chart, but Maureen is like, oh, they're going to do it. Yeah. But when?
Next question. How are the Albanians going to factor into all this? We've talked a little bit about it. Maybe we're going to see that's going to bring out the Joker-esqueness, the Jokerness of Clement. We're going to see just how formidable he is. Or maybe they just introduce another element of chaos into the situation.
I can see another element that, like, on the surface appears like, how's this connected to the judge? But maybe the judge has done cases with the Albanian mafia before.
Yeah.
And so if Clement knows what the ledger says, maybe he has a bargaining chip. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Lastly, that's it for Willa? You already said you don't think so, but like, for all intents and purposes, she's on a plane back to Florida, and she appears to be no longer be a part of this story.
If I believe my friends at IMDb.
Oh. We're going to see her again? Is that what they're saying? IMDb is not always accurate.
IMDb's not always accurate. They said 3 episodes.
She's going to be in 3?
That's all she's in, and she's already been in 3. So Goodbye, Willa.
Yeah. Dude, that's so weird to me. I feel like that's so weird.
That would be a huge, like, letdown unless you knew that you were coming back with another season and another opportunity for Raylan to try to win Dad of the Year.
Yeah. I'm going to hold off judgment on it until we find out for sure. But if that's the last we see of Willa, that's weird to me. That's super weird. Okay. Who is your winner of the episode? Episode 3.
Her name
City Primeval.
would be, wait for it, Vivian Olyphant, a.k.a. Willa.
Really?
Like, so,
Yeah, explain
doesn't
this to me.
have a lot of screen time, but has some. And the hatred, and I mean hatred, it was vitriol, tossed at her for the first 2 episodes from people within my inner circles that watch the show.
But there's been some online too, because I'm in a couple Justified Facebook groups for the purposes of this show. There's a lot of people criticizing her. I just don't get it.
And so, like, a lot of people down on her, and then literally the restaurant scene, although I do agree it felt rushed, she does carry her own weight in it. And then as she's boarding the plane, like, that scene, it worked. Like, her and her dad back and forth. Dad then takes the phone call after ignoring it once. And she's like, I'm walking away, but with a tear coming down my cheek.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaking moment. And I would vehemently disagree with people criticizing her acting. In my opinion,
It's
she
either
just hasn't had anything to work with.
It's either the writing, if you don't like how it's going, or you are just anti nepotism. I don't know.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are. And we've talked about this before on the regular pod and on the radio pod. Yeah, I don't really understand that. It's just envious and jealousy. Some people are just not going to like that. I think I have no problem with you saying she's the winner of the episode. I thought that what she got was good, and what she executed it fine. I just wish she would have had more.
I think that where the overall feel for her was episode 1 and 2. I think, like, she reclaimed her right to be part of this cast in episode 3. So,
yeah. My winner of the episode is going to be Ingenue Ellis. Unlike Vivian Olyphant, she gets weighty scenes where she gets like some really deep stuff to work with. We get to see kind of inside her character a little bit as lawyer Carolyn. And I thought, man, she nails it. She's also been in what was that County, the show with Jonathan Majors on HBO, whatever County, the name of, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
do I know what you're talking about?
Jonathan Majors.
Lovecraft Country.
Country, not county.
You were throwing me off with county. If you would have said country, I would have been with you. So now that you say that, I'm like, oh, yeah, she's that lady. Which she was really good in that.
Yeah. She's fabulous.
If you have not watched that, there's only 1 season. So treat yourself. Watch it on Max.
Yeah. She's great. And all her scenes are, I'm just hooked. I'm engaged and I'm hooked on the episode. So she was great. Who is your loser of the episode, Cody?
Wendell Robinson, or Victor Williams, who plays Wendell.
The tall guy. And I'm 6'5". I can't get down. That guy?
Yeah.
That poor guy. You can't tell him to duck. He's like
Exactly.
stuck down. That made me laugh. I loved that scene because I can relate. I'm 6'3".
He's too tall, and he didn't get a lot this episode.
Yeah, he's such a like presence on the screen, and they can't do so. Like Marine has gotten some good scenes. They can't give good scenes to everyone. You can't, and like I understand that with Vivian too, Olyphant, Willa. I understand you're not going to be able to make everyone a part of this story and really flesh out their character, but yeah, they're doing our guy wrong.
Otherwise, it's Keith David, because he's been dead for 2 episodes.
And we needed more Keith David in our life. Arby's, we have the meats. Yeah, he's that guy. My loser, you got the cast list up there?
Yeah.
Who plays Skinder? That's my loser of the episode.
Now you're making me look at Alexander.
Oh, you can't say his last name. Pobutsky. Alexander Pobutsky. We hardly knew you.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a good story there too about your safe and your safe room that only has guns in it. But we'll never know.
And don't ask me to say Skinder's last name.
No, I will not. He's my loser of the episode. He's just part of the nameless rabble that Clement gets to gun down.
Although he did make me chuckle a couple times.
He did. He was great in the episode. I loved him. I loved his blind naivety. He's in love.
He is. So I believe Clement when he's talking about his mom getting sucked up in the tornado.
Dude, what was that scene?
I'm like, who is this guy?
Why did we get like the dramatization of his obvious lie? Or was it? Do we think it wasn't a lie? It was very Fargo-esque.
So the way I took it, and now that you have given me the seed that is sprouting in my brain,
he's like the Joker telling stories.
You want to know how I got these scars?
Yeah.
And then boom, you don't know what's true, what's not.
Yeah. We'll talk more, I'm sure, in the coming episodes about Clement as the Joker to Raylan's Batman.
In which Batman's too in love with his job, his duty.
Yeah.
So is Raylan.
Yeah. All right. How many Stetson hats out of 10 are you giving this episode?
7.5 to 8.
Yeah. I'm going to give it an 8. It's a step up from the first 2 episodes. The story's starting to crank forward. We're starting to get some things into place, and I'm here for it.
Like, is it a perfect Justified episode? No, because Raylan hasn't had to shoot anyone and say it was justified. But you win some, you lose some.
There was a little part of me that was worried after the first 2 episodes. This one allayed a lot of that, and now I feel like we're going to get some good stuff moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Keep listening to the watch-alongs as you watch episodes of Justified, City Primeval. And, hey, if you don't listen to our big pod or the radio pod, you should listen to those as well. We talk about a lot of interesting things.
Random things.
Yeah. So find a pod drop with the category that interests you. Give it a listen. If you haven't already, subscribe to the pod and give us a review. That always helps. Share our posts on social media on your news feeds or your feeds and tell your friends why you love Pop Culture Pastor. Thank you so much for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.